Assalamu alaikum ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Industry Dialogue. आज हमारे साथ एक डिजिटल बिजनेस कंसल्टेंट, एक एक्सपीरियंस प्रोफेशनल जिनका 17 साल का तजर्बा है फॉर एजाइल प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट और यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स और कैनेडियन रीजन में इन्होंने काम किया हुआ है, वो हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं. इज़ ऑल्सो द फाउंडर गेस्ट फॉर दिस शो and we really appreciate him taking out time and telling us about agile project management और specifically उसमें scrum के हवाले से हम इनसे बात करेंगे. Samir, thank you very much for taking out time and coming into our show, and we welcome you to the very first episode of Industry Dialogue. So Samir, we've been hearing this term scrum और industry में बहुत बड़ा ये buzzword है, scrum approach towards project development, project management. थोड़ा सा हमारी audience को बताइए कि what is scrum and why it is used today.
Sure, Omer. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm honored to be the first one to be on the show, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you
for
so
all the progress on the show. So, yes, Scrum is a buzzword in the market these days. But before we dive into Scrum, let's look at what is Agile. Because Scrum framework, it's part of Agile. So Agile itself, it's a mindset. It's an approach, how you approach to things. So in 2001, this was introduced, this word Agile was introduced in Agile Manifesto. जिसके अंदर ये basically iterative development जब start हुई तो उसके अंदर ये use किया गया. To understand Scrum, ये एक lightweight framework है जिसके अंदर आपको एक guideline दी गई है. You have to be in this framework. और उसके अंदर आप अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स का सोल्यूशन खुद निकालो और डिलीवर समथिंग दैट इज यूजफुल फॉर द कस्टमर. हाउ इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम वाटरफॉल. इट्स वाटरफॉल के अंदर यू प्लान एवरीथिंग अप फ्रंट, यू डिलीवर एंड देन यू टेस्ट विद द कस्टमर एंड सी इफ इट वर्क्स और नॉट. उसमें बहुत टाइम लग जाता है. जबकि हम एजाइल माइंडसेट और एजाइल अप्रोचेस जब हम यूज करते हैं और उसके अंदर फिर डिफरेंट फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं जिसके अंदर we deliver faster info to the customer, get feedback, और उसके बाद we enhance the product based on the feedback rather than deliver something that we thought will work for the customer.
You do understand, I myself is a technology entrepreneur और हम लोग solutions बना के देते रहते हैं market में. So what I understand from your point of view is this कि हम लोग तो ये करते हैं कि अगर हमारे पास कोई project आता है तो हम उसका पूरे का पूरा पहले टाइम फ्रेम डिसाइड करते हैं, फिर हम उसके बेसिकली मुख्तलिफ फेजेस के अंदर जो हैं माइलस्टोन्स बनाते हैं और कस्टमर से हम एक फिक्स डिमांड ले लेते हैं कि जी आपको ये फंक्शनैलिटी चाहिए. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम होता ये है कि जिस वक्त हम उसको फाइनल प्रोजेक्ट डिलीवर करते हैं तो कई दफ़ा जेन्युइनली कस्टमर की डिमांड्स जो हैं उनके अंदर एडिशन हो जाता है और कई दफ़ा ड्यू टू व्हाट कैन आई से लैक ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑन द पार्ट ऑफ कस्टमर वो डिमांड्स उसको बहुत बाद में जाके रियलाइज़ होती हैं. इफ़ यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल यू, अगर अब ये अप्रोच इस्तेमाल हो रही है कि आप बेसिकली सारे का सारा प्रोडक्ट डेवलप करने से पहले उसको फेजेस में, व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड इज कि हम फेजेस में उसको डेवलप करें और उसके बाद उन फेजेस को रिव्यू करें और जब हम उनको रिव्यू कर लेते हैं और हमारा एक एक फेज क्लियर होता जाता है तो मूव टू द नेक्स्ट फेज. तो आई थिंक दिस इज अ वेरी गुड अप्रोच.
इट्स जस्ट दैट the way world is changing, the way we are delivering products to the customers, waterfall doesn't fit into that model. There are still many industries that are still using waterfall approaches, which is fine, it works for them. लेकिन हम जब agile development की बात करते हैं और उसके अंदर हम scrum की बात करते हैं, because scrum is the most common and widely used framework in the market. और उसकी बात जिस तरह आपने बोला वो बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है कि you don't have to know everything up front. You should know the minimum viable items that you need to deliver and you act on it. Or usme, when we talk about sprints, like normally it could be 1 week to 4 week sprints, but traditionally best practice has shown 2-week sprint work best. So we'll go with 2-week sprints. In my conversation, I'll focus more on features because you have to deliver a feature which is a workable feature that you can show to the customer, and customer gives you a feedback whether you like it or you don't like it, and then you build on top of it. Either you go back to the drawing board and build something else that the customer wants, or if customer likes it, then you build on top of it to improve it, to make it better.
It could be understandable on the part of the customer as well. This is going to be the best possible approach through which we can, deliver better results in the form of the final
exactly.
product.
तो उसके अंदर आपको फीडबैक जल्दी मिल सकती है. कभी कभी कुछ इंडस्ट्री वाले क्या करते हैं कि वो कहते हैं हम लोग स्प्रिंट्स कर रहे हैं, वी आर डेवलपिंग इन स्प्रिंट्स, but they are not actually testing in those sprints too. Their focus is just on developing. And then once they develop everything, then they say, now we have developed it, now we will test. We'll take 3 sprints to test, and then we'll get the feedback in testing whatever the bugs or defects come. And और उसके अंदर bugs आते हैं, और फिर now you go back to the development cycle and you fix things and then you test it. It kills the purpose of Scrum.
Okay, you're using this term sprint, you know, the way I understand sprint से हम तो यही मुराद लेते हैं, you know, तेज भागना from point A to point B, basically. So Scrum के world के अंदर भी, is it the same thing that we are rushing up things?
Yeah, so it's not rushing up things. So sprint is a time boxed event in Scrum. आप 1 week sprint भी कर सकते हो, आप 4 week sprint भी कर सकते हो. The idea of the sprint is whatever you commit in that sprint, you have to deliver, you have to finish that work.
Okay.
और उसके अंदर Scrum के अंदर फिर you have sprint, और उसका और it should be a workable product.
Okay.
Workable feature.
Okay.
ठीक है, आप because of this COVID,
yeah.
Pakistan government formed NCOC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't ask me what NCOC means, but let's say NCOC.
Yeah.
So उन्होंने उसके अंदर जिस तरह काम किया, initially they formed this group to focus on COVID-19 and COVID-19 situation. उसके अंदर किस तरह changes, उसके अंदर क्या हो रहा है. So their initial plan was कि हम लोग target करें, हम लोग सारा data gather करें.
Exactly.
That was their first thing. ठीक है. उसके पहला उन्होंने जब ये काम किया, उसमें उन्होंने डेटा गैदर किया. उसके बाद सेकंड फेज के अंदर उन लोगों ने किया कि हमारे पास डेटा आ गया है, अब हम डेटा से हम लोग लॉकडाउन, एंड दे इन्वेंटेड दिस टर्म कॉल्ड स्मार्ट लॉकडाउन because they figured out they couldn't do lockdown because it's going to impact everybody and it won't be successful. They tried to do smart lockdown, and then they did smart lockdown. In smart lockdown they did different phases. They did smart lockdown, right? फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने जब वैक्सीन आ गई तो उन्होंने किस तरह वैक्सीन को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने का प्लान बनाया कि हमने वैक्सीन डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किस तरह करनी है. एंड दे मेड दीज चेंजेस एज पार्ट ऑफ दिस एनसीओसी प्रोडक्ट. उसके अंदर इन लोगों ने based on their learnings, based on their findings, feedback, and as the data was coming in, they adopt and change, right?
Yeah.
Without blaming anybody who's being right or wrong, they successfully delivered what they were meant to do. Their job was to ensure public safety. Their job was to ensure COVID-19 doesn't spread. It's controlled. And people get vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
So उन लोगों ने इसको successfully iterative development approach के through उसको उन्होंने achieve किया. ठीक है? So they must have time boxed their items, like their time box कि हम लोगों ने इस feature को, या हम जब data collect कर रहे हैं, we have 3 weeks. We focus on collecting data. They did not focus on getting vaccines. They didn't focus on smart lockdowns. They didn't focus on how many healthcare providers we need or whatever it is. They focus on us collecting data. So on that feature, they delivered in 3 weeks, for example, right? In 3 weeks, they said they reviewed, they did a sprint, they did a review, they reviewed the data, and they found out, okay, this data is good, this data is bad. Okay, if this data is good, what is the next thing they could do on? So उन्होंने फिर अगले 3 weeks के लिए अपना एक टारगेट सेट किया कि हमने अब ये काम करना है. और इस तरह करके उन्होंने अगला काम किया. ठीक है, और फिर उसको सक्सेसफुली किया, एंड देन दे रिव्यूड इट, दे डिड अ रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव जिसके अंदर they talk about their learnings, इसमें क्या अच्छा था, क्या बुरा था, and then they moved on to the next phase. This is just our assumption that they use something from the agile approaches.
Yes, but you see the kind of circumstances that they had, and you know, time was definitely not on their side. So agile is definitely making sense in this kind of scenario. And you're right, we don't know whether they adapted this approach or not, but this is a fine example that you've given.
Because their scope was their scope was fluid, right?
Yeah,
they don't
it was
have
very
a fixed
fluid.
scope.
It was very
they didn't know what they are targeting. Every sprint or every iteration, they were deciding what is the scope for this iteration. It wasn't when the NCOC was formed, they did not have scope for every sprint. right? So they learned and they changed their approaches. They changed their scope for that specific sprint.
And they were
And
actually
same
planning
thing-
for something which nobody knew. This is like a very strong real time scenario to sort of associate with it with agile workflow and everything, because
So
nobody knew that how COVID is going to turn out eventually. So
Scrum is based on three pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation.
okay.
और हम लोग इनकी detail में, if not in this session, in next session we can go into more detail.
Definitely.
So the key thing within Scrum is you have to be transparent. Like everything is in the open. When we say transparent, the team needs to be transparent with the work they are doing. They need to be transparent with the stakeholders. You are transparent with your stakeholder, decisions become much easier. Problem happens in waterfall. Problem happens, we go to these steering committee meetings where we show we are on track, we are on track, we are on track. But we have not actually shown anything until we have finished development.
That's true.
So
That's true.
when we go in front of the customer during the testing phase, the customer says, you said you're on track, but what you delivered doesn't work for us. And then we go like, oh, because the development, we finished a timeline on development, but during testing we found out it has so many bugs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. एक फीचर जो दूसरे फीचर से सॉफ्टवेयर एनवायरनमेंट में लिंक्ड होता है, अब उसकी ऑल टुगेदर प्लानिंग ही चेंज हो जाती है जब हम उसको डिवाइड कर देते हैं ऑन व्हाट कैन आई से इंडिविजुअलिटी, कि अब उसने अपने इंडिविजुअल बेसिस के ऊपर परफॉर्म करना है. तो जो ऑर्थोडॉक्स अप्रोच है या जो कन्वेंशनल अप्रोच है उसमें ये होता था कि अगर उसने परफॉर्म करना है तो देयर हैज टू बी सर्टेन अदर फीचर्स आल्सो एक्टिवली परफॉर्मिंग इन ऑर्डर फॉर इट टू वर्क प्रॉपर्ली. और उसकी वजह से वो फिर एक वो वाटरफॉल अप्रोच बनता ही इस वजह से था, बिकॉज आप कहते थे कि अब हमने 90% तो अपना प्रोजेक्ट जो है वो डेवलप करना है सिर्फ टेस्टिंग तक, तो इससे बेहतर है हम 10% एडिशनल करके 100% करके ही दे देते हैं उसको कस्टमर को, which obviously you know कि in majority of the scenarios it used to backfire.
फिर उसके बाद Scrum values आती हैं, which are at the core. If anyone can understand the Scrum values, they will love doing Scrum. The 5 values of Scrum are commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. The team needs to understand the values, these 5 values, but it's very important that management also understand these values and respect them. बहुत ज़रूरी है कि पूरी की पूरी management जो है वो इसके अंदर आपको fully supportive हो, और at the same time they need to trust the team and the team needs to be accountable for what they are doing.
Everybody is a stakeholder. In other words, what you're trying to say is कि पूरी टीम ही stakeholder है और it's a combined goal approach. And I'm sure कि management को भी जब ये adapt करना है तो management को भी काफी अपनी readiness रखनी पड़ेगी to give the feedback, to basically give the kind of inputs which are required to go from one sprint to another. This is what I understand जो आप बात कर रहे हो.
और yeah, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है उमर. Like the complete product is not always needed. You can start small and build on top of it. You don't have to build big every time.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
जिस वक्त मैनेजमेंट को ये अंडरस्टैंड कर ले तो टीम जो है वो अच्छा सक्सेसफुल काम कर सकती है.
You quoted an example of NCOC हमारे इस केस के अंदर. You've been working with foreign clients as well. Can you give us an example of your experience from some foreign client that you implemented Scrum और उसने जो time losses थे उनको minimize कर दिया? Can you give some example like that?
Definitely, it was a mobile application that we were developing. और उसके अंदर initially they had a website. The idea was, and they had an app. That app was a wrapper of the website.
Okay. Okay.
Because you belong to an IT industry, so I'm sure you can understand. Yeah. It wasn't a standalone application for mobile. It was just a website. उसके ऊपर उन्होंने wrapper चढ़ाया हुआ था उसका, और वो app उसकी बनाई भी थी जो कि हम use करते थे. So what we did was, we got into that project. जिसके अंदर हमारा मेन टास्क ये था कि हम लोगों ने ब्रांड न्यू मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन डेवलप करनी है.
ठीक है.
और हम लोगों ने जो फीचर्स हैं वो 1 by 1 करके मार्केट में रिलीज करने हैं.
ठीक है.
We did a study. Initially we just didn't start a development. We did a study. We did a with a user experience, UX designers, if a user experience and UI designers, we sat with them. They sat with the business. They understood what their requirement is, what exactly they're asking for. और हम लोग उसके बाद फिर they did a survey, they did some market study, and then they developed prototypes. So initially they developed the prototypes. We tested those prototypes with the users. So there's a sample users. We tested those prototypes.
Okay.
And we got the feedback.
Okay.
So once we had the prototypes, then we agreed with the product owner that, okay, we have these prototypes. How do you want us to deliver this? Because we can't deliver everything at once. So he, based on his product roadmap, he prioritized these features are of high importance and these features are of low importance. So we targeted high features. What we did was we explained, we laid down the product roadmap. उसमें एक feature जो था, we focused on that feature. We said we will deliver this feature, and then we said from this feature, what exactly do you want it to do? So then our UI people and UX people sat with the product owner, and they wrote user stories. So product owner wrote user stories. As a user, I want to do this. So this is what happens. The action. इस तरह करके we wrote few user stories, and we said, okay, these are the user stories. We prioritize the user stories, and then we said, okay, these are the stories which are prioritized. Then we refine those user stories. And so that mobile application went live with just one feature.
Okay, understood.
That app is in production, and now we are releasing small features. It was an app for gaining reward points. Our product owner was happy to release the product, the features quickly to the market. He didn't want to wait to have the entire product roadmap completed and then deliver.
I think in today's session, जो बात हमें समझ में आई है वो ये आई है कि कम वक्त में efficiency, productivity और उसके बाद जो transparency, जो commitment towards project है, उसको ensure करने के लिए we have to make use of this Scrum approach, and everybody is a stakeholder. The team of the project, everybody is the stakeholder in this. It's ये नहीं कि एक किसी इंसान की जिम्मेवारी है. Everybody is having this combined responsibility in Scrum approach.
Exactly, 100%.
And I think that this is the need of the hour as well. Things are changing so fast and rapidly.
Accountability की बात की है. Also, this becomes it can only happen if you empower your team, right?
That's true.
And you make them understand. Project management के अंदर तो ये होता है ना कि project manager every day खड़ा होके कहता है, उमर तुम्हारा काम कितना हुआ? उमर कहता है 30% complete. समीर कहता है okay 30% complete. कब तक करके दोगे? Okay, मैं 5 days में कर दूंगा. ठीक है, 5 days के बाद मुझे 100% करके दे देना. ठीक है. और 5 दिन के बाद उमर को मैं कहता हूँ, उमर 5 दिन गुजर गए हैं, तुमने कहा था 100% होगा, अब क्या हुआ है? ओ मैं एक बग आ गया था, मैं उसमें फंस गया हूँ, तो अब 80% हो गया. तो मैं बोलता अच्छा चलो मैं प्रोजेक्ट टाइमलाइन को चेंज कर देता हूँ.
ठीक है, बिल्कुल सही.
और टेस्टर को मैं बोलूंगा, टेस्टर कहता है मैं तो अभी तक टेस्ट ही नहीं कर सका जब तक डेवलप नहीं हुआ. तो मेरा टाइम तो अभी स्टार्ट भी नहीं हुआ.
That's true.
तो
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं.
उसमें प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर becomes a task master.
Yeah.
He's making sure कि काम खत्म हो रहा है. जबकि स्क्रम के अंदर every team member is accountable to deliver a user story.
ठीक हो गया, बिल्कुल सही.
It's not about अगर उमर डेवलपर है तो डेफिनेटली उमर आपने इस यूजर स्टोरी में टास्क ब्रेक डाउन किए हुए हैं कि ये टास्क है, ये टास्क है, ये टास्क है. एंड दे आर नॉट टास्क आर नॉट रोल बेस्ड. टास्क्स आर एक्चुअल वर्क टू बी डन.
ठीक है.
ताकि टीम में कोई टास्क भी कर सकता है. तो टेस्टिंग भी उसके अंदर ही होती है. तो उमर ये नहीं कह सकता, एंड आई एम सॉरी आई एम जस्ट टेकिंग यू एज एन एग्जांपल. उमर ये नहीं कह सकता समीर मैंने तो अपना काम, आई एम अ डेवलपर, मैंने तो अपनी डेवलपमेंट कर लिया, आई एम रेडी टू पिक अप अ न्यू यूजर स्टोरी. ठीक है. यू हैव टू फिनिश द यूजर स्टोरी बिफोर यू पिक अ न्यू यूजर स्टोरी. सो एवरीवन इज अकाउंटेबल एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू डिलीवर द यूजर स्टोरी.
I think we should do detailed session on how a Scrum environment is like. Scrum की environment किस तरह की होती है, like उसमें किस तरह से office setup होता है, किस तरह से tasks divide होते हैं. But for now we are like running out of time, Samir. Thank you so much for
sure.
coming on the show and
So
sharing
my pleasure.
your experience.
It was our first one.
It was definitely our first one,
for sure.
and
Yes,
many
it
more
was
to
our first
come.
one.
Many more to come
So,
because Scrum का जो
inshallah,
topic है वो एक session में
inshallah,
जो
there will
sum
be
up करना
definitely many more to
is
come.
very hard. You know, it's very hard to sum up this extensive
Exactly. And,
topic in one session. But I think हमने आज
No, I was just saying there's so many things to discuss and cover.
That's
And
true.
as you are talking, many things come to your mind too, but then you have to hold yourself back and say, okay, this is for another time. So definitely
because
looking forward to other sessions
you
as
see,
well.
you've got so much things to ask, you've got so much things to tell. आपके पास बहुत सारी ऐसी बातें अब like मेरा
Yeah.
दिल नहीं कर रहा कि हम ये सेशन खत्म करें, मेरे पास बहुत सारे सवाल आते हैं. And then these case studies like you've just mentioned about this mobile application, ये हमारा एवरीडे टास्क है. इसी तरह कई हमारी आईटी फर्म्स के अंदर भी वी गेट प्रोजेक्ट्स लाइक दैट और हमने उनको फिर टाइम पे डिलीवर भी करना होता है एंड वी हैव टू इंश्योर क्वालिटी एज वेल. सो एज आई सेड we need to have detailed sessions about each of these topics in the future. Inshallah we'll do that, but right now
Definitely.
this is all that
अगर
we
हमारे
can,
कुछ
talk
local
about.
listeners जो हैं,
जी.
definitely. In the meantime, if some of our local listeners in Pakistan,
Yeah.
if they want to see some of the apps just to get an idea what we were talking about, what I was talking about,
Yeah.
they can look at some local apps.
Yeah.
They can look at EasyPasa or JazzCash or Airlift or Food Panda.
Oh yes. Oh
Just
yes.
see how
Yes.
Food Panda have evolved in last 2 years. Like they started off with a simple thing, but
Yeah, that's
now
true. That's true.
Food Panda is in every corner.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
just to get an idea कि मैं जो आपसे बात कर रहा था कि एक feature ready होता है वो हम deploy कर देते हैं. We don't wait for 10 features to get ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
give something. So far you have a platform. Just keep pushing things. And then exactly. So
Okay.
that's what it is. So inshallah.
No, definitely we will have another
it was
session
nice talking to you,
on this agile project management, because I think this is the need of the hour for every startup in our country and also globally.
Definitely,
So-
definitely, and definitely we can come back with more examples, and of course we'll do in what is the industry best practices, and
Inshallah.
how can we help. Our main goal is not. I'm sure there are many other good videos out there
Yeah,
that
that's
talk
true.
about what is
That's
Sprint,
true.
what is Scrum, but our main focus is how we can help the Pakistani community and Pakistani system to understand this amazing framework that's out there.
Absolutely, Samir.
So
That
that's our
is
main
the
goal.
purpose of this show
And we'll
as
try
well, to share our 2 cents for the betterment of
Exactly.
any startup out there or any business which
Exactly.
is struggling already.
And one of the reasons maybe we both will find some difficulty is finding the simpler words so everyone can
Yeah,
relate
that's
to,
true. That's true.
right?
It's quite
Like,
a technical
because-
approach. So we have to
तो
make it
हम लोग
simplified.
बहुत मुश्किल वर्ड्स यूज कर सकते हैं लेकिन उसके लिए फिर थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है. So that is one of our things because just before this show you and I were talking that this framework can be used in any industry.
That's true. That's
If
true.
you understand
and in
if you
the
understand
next
the
session,
purpose of this framework,
yes, and in the next session we are going to take example of some other industry, inshallah. Thank you very much, Samir, for taking out time and coming into the first episode of Industry Dialogue. And I look forward to having more sessions with you in the future, inshallah. And I also think that our audience also learned a lot today about the Scrum approach and the Agile project management. And they have many questions, I'm sure, and we're going to address them, inshallah, in the future as well. So thank you for your time. Thank you very
for
much.
sure, inshallah. Thank you so much again and looking forward to talking to you again.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much. Take care.
Allah
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.